It's your girl, the Grown Woman Gamer, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened with the Astroworld Fest. So, yesterday, Travis Scott performed at his own festival. This will be the third time that they hosted the festival in Houston, Texas. And I will just say as a note that in previous festivals, some people were hurt, and this is not the first time that there was a stampede or that people got trampled at a festival or even at one of his own festivals. It's also worth noting that in previous concerts and festivals where he's performed, he has been arrested for inciting a riot and endangering his own concert goers. I know that there's an element of the youth that enjoy that frenetic energy that comes with being in a mosh pit. He calls his hive the Ragers, and there's definitely like a lot of energy that Travis Scott is able to conjure up in the people that follow him. And just to be fair, I love hip hop music. I am a fan of his music, so I'm not one of those older people who don't understand the appeal of Travis Scott. I've listened to a lot of music, including some music from this generation of rappers that has come out, and a lot of it really doesn't resonate with me. But as an artist, I feel like he has something to say, and he's very there. There are lots of things about him that are very unique. And I'm one of those people who I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I'm also going to be very honest about how I feel about what happened in the last 24 hours and what happened at Astrofest. At least what I've read and what I understand to have happened. Um, I've I just want to start by saying I don't think that it was responsible to have 50,000 people congregating in one place. I know that COVID is not as much of a concern for people with the vaccination being becoming available, with the death numbers going down, and we're also talking about Texas, a state that hasn't been as aggressive in implementing things like mask mandates, etc. But I just thought, wow, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable being in a mosh pit with surrounded by 50,000 other people, even if I had a vaccine. But then again, I'm not in the age group of the average person that attended this concert. Um, so that was the first thing. It just seemed like it was just way, way, way too many people in one place. And I'm reminded by a friend of mine that this is not unusual. They had a baseball game there not too long ago, but I think the key difference between a baseball game and what we witnessed at Astroworld is that there's seating. What the one thing that seating does is it creates kind of like your own space for you to reside in. It's much more comfortable and safe when you're seated because people aren't typically going to sit on top of you. But when everyone's standing and kind of compressed against each other, it makes it very easy for things to go in a bad direction if people fall or if it's slippery, let's say that there's mud underneath you or people nowadays they'll raise their hands above their heads with their cell phones, what makes it's harder to anchor yourself with your hands right above your head, especially if you're not very tall or you're not like girthy person. So I could personally could not imagine. In fact, it would probably be my worst nightmare to be um, in the middle of that. I'm very claustrophobic, and I could not imagine being in the middle of that. So that's the one thing that stood out to me initially, just off first glance. And then secondly, I started reading accounts of people's experience, and it literally sounded like hell. You hear people talk about standing on other people, that they're just literally bodies face down and face up, looking back up at you if you were to fall. And it just sounds so, I mean, people are using terms like demonic, ritual, satanic, hell. I don't know if I want to jump into that arena at all, but it definitely sounds like it sounds terrifying. If I'll just use a basic adjective, it sounds terrifying. And when you look at videos of people who were able to exit, um, the looks on their faces do not appear the way you would expect someone's face to be if after they've had an amazing musical experience. They look like they're traumatized. They look like the entire experience of being at this festival was traumatizing, and people are coming out and they just look so disturbed, and they're using language like "I survived," "I made it out alive." It should not be like that if you're just going to a concert to see a musician or artist that you really like. And I was kind of like, wow, this is really intense. And then the more video footage you see, the more personal accounts from concert goers that you listen to, you just realize that everything about this um it wasn't well thought out. And I'm gonna double down on that because this was not their first time hosting this concert. This was not the first time that they witnessed people coming in that probably didn't have tickets. This isn't the first time that someone got hurt. This isn't the first time that there was kind of a stampede. There were many other concert experiences where Travis Scott himself was performing that could have informed them about how they should have carried it. There were not enough security um, personnel, there were not enough medical personnel, and there was a sheer lack of communication and poor decision making from the people who were producing the show, because it was clear that there were concert goers who were expressing that folks were unconscious or even dead, and they didn't stop the show. And I see the one thing I find hard to believe is this whole fentanyl thing. Um, I hesitate to. I'm just gonna jump out there and say there have been people who believe that the Kardashians have a inside connection with TMZ and other media outlets. And there's a rumor going around, including from the actual Houston police chief, stating that there was someone injecting folks with fentanyl or some other drug like fentanyl that would potentially send people into an immediate cardiac arrest or incite people to behave in ways that were erratic and illogical. Um, and this is good for Travis Scott and for Live Nation and for all the people that would be held responsible, because they're able to use this story to deflect blame away from them and onto an independent actor who willfully set out to hurt people by injecting them with some type of a drug. Now, I was not there, and the great thing about this piece of information coming out for, again, the Houston PD, the city of Houston, Live Nation, and Travis Scott, is that it's hard to disprove something like this. But it just it's I my hope is that if someone did do that, that they're held responsible, because that's wrong and they should face punishment for um, trying to hurt people and potentially causing people harm or even death. But that does not absolve Live Nation, Travis Scott, the city of Houston, and all the people that could potentially be held responsible for the fact that they brought in way too many people, that they did not shut down the concert more quickly, that the response to medical issues wasn't sufficient due to a lack of staffing, and that this entire situation could potentially have been prevented simply by learning from the mistakes that were made in the past and learning from the things that happened in the past. Um, and I'm not saying I don't buy the story about the drugs. Clearly, in any type of situation like this, at every festival that we've ever seen, either on television or that we've actually been to ourselves, drugs are an element. Music, especially music where you have people with this high, frenetic, kind of crazy energy attached to it, obviously there's substances involved. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But The drug aspect is the more familiar component or the familiar variable in a situation like this. The people dying en masse is the uncommon consequence. So I just hope that all of the families of all of the victims get their justice from whoever um, needs to pay, on whatever level, whether it be criminal, civil, monetary, people simply apologizing, whatever can be done to try to make these people whole, because there's literally nothing that you can do to bring someone's child back. There's no consoling someone who sends their child off to have this fun experience and then in turn their child just doesn't come back home. And to know that your child died while potentially being trampled by other human beings. I mean, it's it's not it's just terrifying, horrific, inhumane. It's just horrible. Um and I just felt like I needed to say that, and I can tell you this much. I had tickets to go to a festival that's supposed to happen this coming weekend. And Travis Scott was one of the headliners, and I'll be honest, he was the main reason why I wanted to go, because as I stated, although I'm significantly older than most of the people that were discussed in this last story, I like his music. I really do. I like his music videos. I like him as an artist. But I will never, ever in my life go see one of his concerts. I don't care. I mean, there's nothing in me that would make me want to spend my money and go support him at this point. I just couldn't do it. Every time I see a concert where he's performing in the future, I will be thinking about what happened yesterday. Um, and maybe that's not fair, but I'm just being honest. There's no forgetting, there's no way that you can't attach this event to him. It's just, and some of the visuals that you saw from him, from the crowd, it's just, it stays with you. It's not something that can easily be forgotten. So those are my thoughts. I thank anyone who listened to my video, listened to what I had to say. I hope everyone's doing well, staying safe, making good choices, and I hope everybody is all right out there. Be blessed, and I'm sure I'll be back soon and say something else one of these days. I'm out.